Okay, so we've got this YouTube video somebody sent in. It's from Pastor Jerry Eze.
Oh, okay.
It's called "Oh Lord, Show Me Mercy." And it's from July 26th, 2023.
Yeah,
And it's full of these really powerful testimonies about faith.
right.
And it just got me thinking about what happens when people share these stories.
Yeah.
These really personal stories about their struggles and, how that affects other people.
I think it's a really powerful thing.
So that's what we're going to kind of dive into today.
Okay.
Like, what's the impact of these personal stories, especially when it comes to faith?
Well, I think one of the things that's so interesting about this video is how these stories become more than just personal. Like they offer this sense of hope and resilience. Like they show how faith can be a source of strength when things get really tough.
And you're not kidding about tough.
Right.
We're talking about health crises,
Yeah.
family struggles, like some serious stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we even begin to unpack all of that?
Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was the number of stories about these incredible medical turnarounds.
Okay.
Like there's this one woman who was diagnosed with a neuromuscular disorder.
Oh, wow.
It's life-altering, right?
Yeah.
And yet after prayer, she's totally cleared.
That's amazing.
It makes you think about things like the placebo effect.
Right. The power of the mind to influence the body.
Exactly.
Like, could the emotion of prayer actually trigger something physical that helps the body heal?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one that researchers are really looking into. Like, we can't say for sure that prayer causes healing.
Right.
But there is some evidence that positive emotions, the kind you often feel during prayer, they can actually have a positive impact on the immune system.
So it's not necessarily a miracle cure, but maybe it's about creating an environment where healing is more likely.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it raises all these questions about the mind and body and how spiritual practices can maybe play a role in our overall well-being.
Okay, so we've got this woman defying medical odds. And then there's this man with stage 4 kidney disease.
Oh, wow.
And after prayer, his test results go back to normal.
It's pretty remarkable.
So how do these stories fit into this bigger picture of faith and healing?
Well, I think it comes down to this human need for control.
Yeah.
Especially when we feel powerless.
Like when you're facing a serious illness, you feel like you have no control.
Yeah, and so it's about finding a way to participate in your own healing.
Even if it's through something like prayer.
Exactly.
So it's not about rejecting medical treatment.
No, not at all.
But it's about finding something else to give you strength and hope.
Right. It's about complementing the medical care.
Yeah.
With a belief system that gives you comfort and resilience.
It's amazing how these personal experiences can create this sense of shared faith.
It really is.
Like there were all these stories in the video about the power of collective belief, especially in times of crisis.
And I think what's so fascinating is how this shared experience can lead to a greater sense of hope and even influence individual behavior.
Like, oh.
Well, take the woman whose husband is having brain surgery.
Right.
She finds comfort in Pastor Jerry Eze's words, and that strengthens her own faith during a really difficult time.
It's almost like his words become an anchor for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like helping her to get through that emotional turmoil.
And then you have the story of the mother who's fighting for her daughter's health.
Yeah.
And she finds strength in the online community and in the ritual of communion.
So it's not just about praying alone.
Right.
It's about this collective experience that brings them together.
And that creates a support system.
Yeah. Do you think that's a big part of what makes them so resilient?
I think it is.
It's like that feeling of belonging to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And it's incredibly powerful.
Especially when things are tough.
Absolutely.
And speaking of connection, the act of sharing these testimonies seems really important in this community.
Yeah, it is.
What do you think is the significance of that?
Well, I think they act as this kind of social proof.
Okay.
Within these faith communities. Like it reinforces their shared beliefs.
Right.
And offers an example of how faith can work in people's lives.
So it's like one person's story can inspire another person.
Yeah, exactly.
And make them believe in the possibility of a miracle.
Right.
Because they've seen it happen to someone else.
And it often ties into this idea of divine intervention.
Okay.
Like it reinforces their belief system even more.
Like the woman who's cured of cervical cancer?
Yeah.
And she says it's because of her faith in prayer.
And then her daughter shares the story with so much passion.
It becomes this family story of hope.
Exactly.
But it's not always about these dramatic healings, is it?
No, not at all.
Like there's that man who's hospitalized with COVID
Mm-hmm.
and he's really sick. And he says he recovered because of prayer.
And his wife's faith.
Right.
Like it shows how faith can manifest in the people around us.
It's like this network of support
Yeah.
that can be so powerful when you're going through something difficult.
It really can.
You know, I have to admit, some of these stories are hard to believe.
I know what you mean.
Like they seem to defy logic.
Yeah,
it's like
right.
you're entering this world where anything is possible.
And I think those are the moments that really stick with us.
Right.
Those times when it seems like something unexplainable has happened.
Like the woman whose husband is in a coma
Right.
and the doctors are saying it doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
But then during the service, Pastor Jerry Eze says something.
Yeah.
And it's like this moment of divine timing.
It really is.
He says, God doesn't give stones when his children ask for bread. And then her husband wakes up.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
I know.
It's like she interpreted this seemingly random event
Yeah.
through the lens of her faith.
And found meaning in it.
Exactly.
And it doesn't stop there.
No.
The man stands up on his own,
Wow.
even though he's supposed to be immobile.
It's amazing.
It's like his belief and his wife's faith
Oh.
and the pastor's words
Yeah.
all combine to create this incredible turnaround.
It makes you question what's really possible, doesn't it?
It does.
Like whether we call them miracles or just incredible coincidences, there's no denying the impact they have.
It makes you wonder about the power of the human spirit.
Right.
Like, what are we capable of?
And the power of belief to shape our
Our
reality,
experiences.
our perceptions, everything.
It can all be influenced by what we believe.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about accepting things as they are.
No.
It's about believing that change is possible
And then taking action.
to make that change happen.
Exactly.
You know, one thing that struck me about this video
Mhm.
is how emotional it is.
Yeah.
Like Pastor Jerry Eze is so passionate
He really is.
and the congregation is so moved by it.
The amens, the cries, the singing.
It's all so intense.
And I think that collective energy is really important in these services.
Yeah.
It creates this shared emotional experience.
That brings everyone together.
It makes them feel connected to something bigger than themselves.
I bet it's pretty overwhelming to be there in person,
I can imagine.
like surrounded by all that faith and hope.
And that shared energy probably contributes to the sense of expectation and the belief that miracles are possible.
It's interesting how the social and psychological parts of this
Yeah.
intersect with these personal stories of faith and healing.
Like it's all woven together
He really is.
into this tapestry of belief and hope.
There were a few stories that really resonated with me,
Oh, yeah.
like the little girl with kidney cancer.
That one was tough.
Her mom's faith is just incredible.
She's amazing.
She talks about playing the service recordings for her daughter,
Mm-hmm.
giving her communion,
Yeah.
just holding on to every word of hope.
And then
And then 3 months later, the little girl is cancer-free.
it's remarkable.
It shows you the power of a parent's love
It really does.
and how far they'll go to help their child.
And even though we can't say for sure that prayer cured her,
Right.
I think the mother's faith helped her to stay strong
Yeah.
and to support her daughter through it all.
And then there's the man who's rushed to the hospital with COVID,
Yeah.
and he's in really bad shape.
It's a reminder of how serious this virus was
Well, his wife can't even be with him.
because of the safety protocols.
So she's just praying desperately for him to recover.
She even puts communion on his picture.
I know.
It's such a powerful gesture.
It really is.
It shows how deep their connection is.
And how much she wants to be there for him,
Yeah.
even though she can't.
And then, against all odds, he wakes up
And calls his wife.
and says, "What God cannot do does not exist,"
It's like this declaration of victory.
over incredible adversity.
You know, even though these stories are rooted in a specific religion,
Yeah.
I think they speak to something universal. Like that human need to find meaning,
To connect with something bigger than ourselves.
or find something to believe in.
That can help us make sense of the world.
Excellent.
And I think that's what's so powerful about them.
And it's not just about things happening to people.
Yeah.
It's about people taking action,
To create change.
using their faith as a tool.
Exactly.
Like the man with kidney disease
Mhm.
who prays for 3 days straight,
Visualizing his kidneys being healed.
and then his tests show improvement.
It's amazing.
Or the woman with cervical cancer
Refuses not to do conventional treatment.
and relies on prayer and faith instead.
And after 3 months, her tests are negative.
It's like these stories are challenging us
To think differently
about what's possible,
about the mind-body connection.
about the power of belief.
They're opening up all these new possibilities.
Makes you wonder about the limits we put on ourselves, you know?
Yeah, it's like we create these boundaries.
based on what we think we know.
What if we're wrong, though?
Right? What if there's so much more that's possible?
It's a pretty humbling thought.
It is.
Like, these stories, they make you think about all that uncharted territory.
Yeah.
The connection between mind, body, and spirit.
Like there might be forces at work that we just don't understand yet.
Exactly.
So I've talked about these incredible stories of healing
Mhm.
and the power of shared faith
Yeah,
and how personal testimonies can really impact people.
right.
But what does it all mean?
I think for me, it's about hope. Even when things seem impossible.
It's like a reminder that even when life gets really tough,
Mhm.
there's always a reason to keep believing.
To keep fighting.
Yeah, to hold on to that hope.
And it's not just about individual strength.
Wow.
It's about community, too.
People coming together
To support each other.
to create this network of hope.
That goes beyond just one person.
Yeah, that sense of community is so strong in this video.
It is.
It's like this collective energy that fuels everyone's faith.
And it has this ripple effect.
It touches everyone who hears these stories.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways here.
What's that?
That regardless of your beliefs,
Mhm.
these stories remind us that we're all capable of hope.
Of resilience.
The chance
It's like we all have this inner strength,
that we can draw on when we need it,
whether we're facing a medical challenge
an emotional one.
or a spiritual one.
And it makes you think about faith,
Yeah.
not necessarily in a religious way.
But as this like basic human need,
What do we believe in?
what gives us hope?
Where do we find our strength?
That's a really good question.
It is.
So as you think about these stories,
Mm-hmm.
how do they make you feel?
Do they challenge your beliefs?
Do they reinforce them?
It's all about how we understand the world.
And the potential that we all have inside us?
Yeah, this has been a really interesting deep dive
It has.
into faith and testimony.
It's left me feeling hopeful
Me too.
and grateful for the power of the human spirit.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Exploring these big questions
These human experiences.
and coming away with a new perspective,
A sense of possibility.
a better understanding of ourselves and the world.
So until next time,
Yeah.
keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep believing.